Organized labor declares total nationwide strike from Tuesday, November 14. NMA confirms the escape of an abducted resident doctor, Dr. Orakara Orak. IGP announces restriction movement ahead of Imo, Kogi, and Bayelsa governorship poll. And on the foreign scene, people pull from rubble after explosions in southern Gazan cities of Khan Yunis and Rafah. Good evening, this is News at 7 on Western Spring Television. My name is EVELYN OHIOLEI. We begin as the leadership of the Nigeria Labour Congress NLC and the Trade Union Congress TUC have declared a total nationwide strike effective next week, Tuesday, November 14, 2023. The leadership of the two unions reached the resolution after an extraordinary National Executive Council meeting on Tuesday in Abuja. The two major labor unions said nationwide mobilization of members and allies have begun immediately. The action by the organized labor followed the brutalization of NLC National President Joe Ajaero last week in Imo State. There had been widespread outrage by the organized labor accusing the Imo State Commissioner of Police, Muhammad Bade, of complicity in the recent attack on Mr. Ajaero in Owerri, the Imo State capital. The organized labor last Friday handed the federal government a 5-day ultimatum to replace the police commissioner while also blaming Governor Hope Uzodinma, who is seeking re-election, of the attack on the NLC president. Already, the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, on Sunday redeployed Mr. Bade for neutrality's sake ahead of the November 11, 2023 governorship election in Imo State. The security matters, the Nigerian Medical Association NMA has confirmed the escape of an abducted resident doctor, Dr. Orakara Orak, attached to the University of Nigeria Teaching Hospital in Enugu State. According to the state NMA chairman, Dr. Celestine Ugwoke, the doctor who was kidnapped from the hospital vicinity on Saturday night made his escape after his abductors negotiated his ransom with his wife and thereafter fell asleep after smoking and drinking. He explained that the abducted doctor, crawled away from the spot he was kept in the kidnapper's den, tracked and ran a distance before sighting human activities, and then came out near the four-corner junction of the Enugu-Port Harcourt Expressway. The NMA chair lamented that doctors in the state have become endangered professionals as kidnappers target them, especially those working in tertiary health institutions. In the meantime, troops of the Nigerian Army have arrested a lawyer at Rimin Zion village in Toro local government area of Bauchi State. The legal practitioner, identified as Abdullahi Abubakar, was nabbed last Saturday in connection to the killing of a mobile police personnel on the second day of this month at Kuba village in Bokos local government. The Nigerian Army disclosed this in a statement today on its official X handle, revealing that the suspect equally admitted to being involved in kidnapping activities and other sundry crimes with other gang members. The Army noted that based on its conventional statement, troops conducted raid operations at Kambal and Huti villages in Bokos local government and arrested Yakubu Saidu and Nasiru Muhammad in connection with the crime. Similarly, troops of Operation Safe Haven (OPSH) have arrested 6 suspected bandits in Bokos and Riyum local government areas of Plateau State. In Katsina, no fewer than 5 people have died and several others wounded after heavily armed bandits attacked Sayaya village in Matazu local government area of the state. A security official whose name was withheld confirmed the incident to newsmen, noting that the fresh attack came last night. He noted that 7 persons were abducted by the hoodlums to an unknown destination. The incident is coming barely a day after a similar one happened in the neighboring Musawa local government area on Sunday night. Sunday's attack, which happened around 10 p.m., saw bandits invade the Maulud celebration ground at Ruga Kusa community, killing and slaughtering 14 persons who attended the celebration. The attack, which is suspected to be a reprisal, lasted over an hour, and the assailant kidnapped not less than 20 residents in their assault. The lawmaker representing the areas during his visit to Musawa condemned the attacks.
People are in the situation whereby honestly you cannot say they are in good living there, because anything can happen. They don't have roads, they don't have nothing as a human beings. So government must do something about it in terms of security. And so almost 13 people died. About 19 are here. 19 people almost injured, serious injured, and more than 20 has been missed.
To politics, the Inspector General of Police Olukayode Egbetokun has announced the restriction of vehicular movement as well as movement of canoes, ships and other means of transportation via waterways in Imo, Kogi and Bayelsa states starting from Friday. IGP Egbetokun, who said the decision was in line with measures put in place to ensure a free, fair and credible election in the 3 states, also barred some state security outfits, including Ibubiagu and other Kosi outfits, from operating during the polls. The IG, who disclosed these at the ongoing press briefing at Force Headquarters, explained that marine and gunboats have been deployed in the 3 states, considering the riverine terrain of the states. Speaking through the Force spokesperson, ACP Olumuyiwa Adejobi, he maintained that the 3 states have been fortified with different security equipment, including helicopters that will be deployed for aerial patrol. Meanwhile, the African Democratic Congress ADC candidate for the Kogi State governorship election, Leke Abejide, has said he expects President Bola Tinubu to give a fair playing ground to all candidates. Mr. Abejide stated this in a news chart, noting that is the only kind of support he wants from the Nigerian president. The off-cycle elections are scheduled to take place on Saturday in Bayelsa, Kogi and Imo states. According to the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, 22 candidates are jostling for the governorship seats in Kogi State. However, Mr. Abejide believes he holds an advantage in the election due to his strong connection to the president. He added that the forthcoming Kogi election would not be decided by party affiliations, but by competence, character, knowledge, experience, and connections of the candidates. In Plateau State, Governor Caleb Mutfwang has renewed the tenures of 16 out of the 17 Transition Implementation Committee chairmen in the state for another 6 months. The State Commissioner for Information, Musa Ashams, confirmed the development in an interview with newsmen in Jos on Tuesday. Mr. Ashams, however, said that the tenure of one of the transition chairmen, Samuel Umaru, was not among those renewed by the governor, adding that he was replaced by Samuel Dala. He disclosed that via tenure extension was communicated to the State Assembly members and was read on the floor of the Assembly during today's plenary and got the approval of the lawmakers accordingly. On why the governor replaced Umaru as the transition chairman for Jos North local government, the commissioner said he was a civil servant and he retired recently from the service. To the National Assembly, the Senate today frowned at the use of firearms and camp boys by officers of the Customs Service on innocent Nigerians, asserting that it must be discouraged. They asked federal government to direct the Comptroller General of Customs, Bashir Adewale, to reduce the multiple checkpoints in Katsina State to enable free flow of goods in and out of the communities. This is part of the recommendations of a report of the ADA Committee on the abuse of firearms by officials of the Nigeria Customs Service, chaired by Senator Fadaunsi Adenigba Francis. Osun East. The Senate also adopted the recommendation to fully equip the personnel of the service.
Be given to the following equipment: long-range CCTV cameras along border communities covering about 5 to 20 kilometers before any Nigerian Customs Service checkpoints. ICT control rooms to monitor movement of smugglers at all Nigerian borders and same to be reported to the control room for seizure, attack, and recovery. Air tracking of smugglers by 2 or 3 and shall transmit its findings to the control rooms. Speedboats for the riverine areas, creeks, and oceans should be provided to track smugglers on waterways. Purchase of excavator, crane vehicles for evacuation of goods and vehicles at waterlogged terrains. Trailers, 40 number, 1 for each state, and doubled to some states with prevalence of smuggling of bags of rice or produce for its evacuation when impounded. Kitting of officers, guns, bulletproof vests, rubber bullets for crowd control, adequate uniforms, boots.
Similarly, the Senate asked the federal government to collaborate with other countries to call for a ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas conflict. Since October 7, the Israeli military has relentlessly bombarded Gaza when Hamas militants launched an attack that left 1,400 dead in Israel, most of them civilians, while the Hamas-run Health Ministry says the death toll in Gaza surpassed 10,000 people. Referencing the Nigerian civil war and the concomitant horror encountered by Nigerians, the Senate equally urged the United Nations to revisit the issue of a two-state solution as a proposed framework for resolving the conflict. In a motion moved by Senator Abdurrahman Kawu from Kano South on Tuesday, the Senate, after an extensive debate, described the emerging figures of death and displacement from the war as horrendous. Lending their voices to the international community, the lawmakers condemned the killings on both sides while suing for peace, particularly to avoid a degeneration into a World War III.
Lasting and do. Mr. President, distinguished senators, there has been horrifying and horrendous figures of casualties from both sides. These figures include number of people that have been displaced, schools that have been destroyed, hospitals, churches, mosques that have also been destroyed from both sides. Ambulances and industrial areas have also been attacked. I do not want to go into the figures, but the figures, Mr. President, distinguished senators, are horrifying and very, very horrendous. The Senate further notes that many international communities have condemned the ongoing conflict and that if urgent steps are not taken to address the situation, the battle may spread to neighboring countries and then to the allies of Israel and Palestine, which may further result in the loss of more lives and properties. In fact, it is even feared that if the escalation of this war continues, it may lead to World War III. God forbid.
Here in Osun State, the government has commenced the enrollment of pensioners into the Osun State Health Insurance Scheme. The exercise, which will ensure that retirees in the state have access to free health care, is the brainchild of the Adeleke-led administration.
19,000 pensioners in Osun State are being enrolled into the Osun State Health Insurance Scheme in a bid to tackle health challenges confronting the retirees. In Osogbo, the state capital, where hundreds are gathered at one of the venues used for the enrollment, the pensioners from all parastatals are happy to partake in the exercise, which was preceded with filling of their details, Some pensioners, Mrs. Olubokun Olubusi and Mr. Peter Agwola, are happy with the state government's move. They say the scheme has given opportunity for those financially handicapped and dying in silence in a bid to receive health care.
Well, I think it's a very good program, and it's a very, the government is very thoughtful of the aged world and the pensioners. So we are very grateful for this efforts of the government, remembering the pensioners, including them in this time, this type of because when one is getting old, there are different health challenges, and some even don't have money to take good care of themselves. But with the introduction of this, I think it's a very good program. We appreciate it.
A beautiful program, a well-deserved program by the government. I love it. Since this is a new government of sincerity and accountability, I'm trusting them that they will effect it, even to the letter.
Executive Secretary of the National Health Insurance Agency, Dr. Razak Akindele, said Governor Ademola Adeleke is concerned about the health of citizens, hence the decision to approve the enrollment of 19,000 pensioners for free. He added that the exercise, which is ongoing simultaneously in 3 other federal constituencies, will take 1 week to conclude.
Yeah, the exercise has kicked off, and you can see the gamut of pensioners coming to take advantage of that. The governor, Senator Demola Nuruddin Jackson Adeleke, is very serious about the health of the citizenry of Osun State, and the senior citizens deserve this. That's why he has directed that we should enroll all the 19,000 pensioners that we have in Osun into the scheme, free of charge. So we have about a week long to carry out the process, and we're going to ensure that all pensioners are enrolled into the scheme. In fact, on Wednesday, the governor is also going to personally register some pensioners to show his seriousness about the program.
With Governor Ademola Adeleke scheduled to present enrollment cards to the senior citizens later, many believe that this move will go a long way in addressing a major challenge faced by pensioners in the states, which is health. Sujesunimi Ogunsheye, Western Spring Television News.
Meanwhile, the Osun State government has described the ongoing enrollment of pensioners into the state health insurance scheme as part of plans to provide succor to pensioners. This was disclosed today by Olawale Rashid, spokesperson to the Osun State Governor Ademola Adeleke, in an interview with Western Spring Television News. Mr. Rashid, while speaking on the motive of the healthcare initiative for pensioners, which is said is the first of its kind in the history of Osun State, said 80% of the challenges faced by the pensioners is health-related. He also revealed that the registration process, which is ongoing, is decentralized to ease mobility of the pensioners. It will be recalled that the Osun State Governor announced the healthcare delivery plan for pensioners while unveiling the 100 billion naira infrastructure development plan last month.
For some time now, we've been having question about how do you take care of pensioners, and the governor said, okay, let me be paying all the backlog one. He's been doing that, then paying the normal pensioners and all those. Then the governor now think, no, what exactly are the main challenges facing pensioners? You see, most of the time it's not food. Most of them are old. Basically, the crisis they are facing is health. They have one health challenge or the other. Some need surgery, some are having eye issue and all those. Governor now say, okay, there is a magic, there is a way out. We have an insurance scheme in the state. Why can't we enroll all the pensioners? And 80% of the challenges facing pensioners in the state is health. It's health related. It's health related. And the governor, by a stroke of pen, has just resolved find solution to that challenge.
Still in Osun State, Governor Ademola Adeleke has reminded core members in the state to see their deployment as a call to service. Governor Adeleke, who was present at the swearing-in ceremony held at the orientation camp in Edo today, also called on the core members to stay true to the national pledge and oath of allegiance. Joseph Othewa was there and now reports.
Dressed in their traditional green and white uniform, hundreds of core members were today sworn in at the state orientation camp in Ede, where they will spend the next 3 weeks receiving lectures, attending seminars, and properly guided for the big deal, which is the 1-year mandatory service. Unlike other swearing-in ceremonies witnessed in the past, the governor of the state, Senator Ademola Adeleke, graced the event to the delight of the more than 1,200 core members in camp. Taking the mic first was the state coordinator of the scheme, Mr. Agbo Obim, who implored the core members to sustain a high level of discipline and enthusiasm in their service to their fatherland. He urged them to remain compliant with the camp rules and regulations while avoiding vices such as cultism, drug abuse, and negative use of social media, which could mar their future and bring disintegration. He advised them to rather pursue acts that will promote national unity and development.
The orientation camp is a regimented program, and it is designed to prepare them for their 1-year service. So I urge them to take the orientation camp activities very, very seriously, especially when you come to skill acquisition and temporary development. You have to take it seriously because the post-camp, the in-camp training will commence, then thereafter they will continue with the post-camp training.
While addressing the core members, the executive governor of Osun State, Senator Ademola Adeleke, charged the core members to be law-abiding and to always ensure they channel their grievances in a civilized and constitutionally acceptable way if the need arises. He also commended the bold and notable strides the NYSC had made in contributing to the social-economic development of the state and country at large in the areas of education, rural health, infrastructure, and agriculture. The governor concluded his speech by urging the core members to remain in the state even after the service year. He stated that Osun State is rich in culture and wealth, hence it is a state to enjoy.
The orientation program is a testament of the government commitment to empowering and equipping you with the knowledge, skills, and values needed to become leaders, innovators, and responsible citizens. It is a platform where you will gain insight, learn from experts, and engage in constructive dialogue and healthy competitions that will shape your path ahead.
Some of the high points of the event was the administration of the oath of allegiance on the core members by the Chief Judge of Osun State and the beautiful cultural display by the core members. Joseph Atewe, Western Spring Television News.
You're watching News at 7 on Western Spring Television. Still to come. At least 4 persons killed in Nasarawa boat mishap. We will bring you more on this when we return. Stay with us.
Born 16th September 1923, named Harry Lee Kwan and known as Lee Kuan Yew, he was often addressed by his initials of LKY. Lee Kuan Yew was a barrister and the first Prime Minister of Singapore between 1959 and 1990. Educated at Raffles Institution from 1936 to 1940 and the Fitzwilliam House between 1947 and 1949. Lee Kuan Yew established a highly effective and anti-corrupt governance system that midwives the transformation of Singapore into a high net worth income economy within a generation. He never hid his exception to Western mode democratic ideal, which he believed had not assisted developing nations to attain good government. Before his death on 23rd March 2015, the People's Action Party, which he founded, had used his political influence to establish the United World College of Southeast Asia to expand his economic ideas among countries that constitute the Asian Tiger. Western Spring Television identifies Lee Kuan Yew as a major character in history.
Illegal bushmeat is not cool, but it's on sale in our cities, risking extinction and our health. And many of our iconic wild animals are threatened. So please be cool and say no to illegal bushmeat. And let's make Nigeria better for wildlife and safer for us all. Keep them wild, keep us safe.
Ahmadu Bello, a Prince Royal, was born 6th of December 1910 at Raba Village, Sokoto, northwestern Nigeria. His father was a district head and heir apparent to the Sultanate throne from the house of Usmanu Danfodio, a religious and social reformer who brought the Habib dynasty under the Fulani Caliphate in the beginning of the 19th century. Ahmadu Bello raised the bar of political consciousness in participation when, in 1944, he engineered the establishment of the Northern People's Congress (NPC) as the first political party in northern Nigeria and the rallying point for politicians in the region before independence. History will not forget Ahmadu Bello for his charisma and political sagacity, which provided easy passage for his kinsmen to assume political and administrative positions in Nigeria's post-independence era. The distinguished elder statesman and Sardauna of Sokoto has his face on his country's 200 naira currency as a mark of honor to one of the architects of Nigeria's independence. Western Spring Television identifies Ahmadu Bello as a watershed character in history.
You're welcome back. This is still news at 7 on Western Spring Television. Here is a reminder of our headlines. Organized labor declares total nationwide strike from Tuesday, November 14. NMA confirms the escape of an abducted resident doctor, Dr. Oporaka Orok. IGP announces restriction movement ahead of Imo, Kogi and Bayelsa governorship poll. And on the foreign scene, people pull from rubble after explosions in southern Gazan cities of Khan Yunis and Rafah. On a rather sad note, at least 4 persons lost their lives after a boat conveying farmers from Uba district in Nasarawa, Egon, had a tragic accident while crossing a river at Unkun village at Awe local government area. It was reported that the farmers were returning from their rice farm on Monday night when the incident happened. The State Police Public Relations Officer DSP Rahman Nansel, who confirmed the incident this afternoon, revealed that 4 corpses had been retrieved by local divers, while the driver of the boat was still missing. The victims have been identified as Alkali Congo, Shadrach Dauda, Mashak Dauda, and Akolo Moses. It was gathered that the bodies of the deceased have been transported back to the village for proper identification by their families. In another development, the President of the Senate, Senator Godswill Akpabio, has issued a stern warning to federal government ministries, departments and agencies, cautioning them against the non-compliance with Senate resolutions and laws. During a national workshop on legislative compliance in Abuja today, Senator Akpabio, who was represented by the Deputy Senate President Barao Jibrin, emphasized the Senate's commitment to upholding the rule of law. He also emphasized the importance of MDAs adhering to Senate resolutions. Senator Akpabio further stated that non-compliance with Senate resolutions was unacceptable as it undermined the foundation of the country's democracy. While the Senate leader Akpayemi Bamdele echoed the significance of legislative compliance, highlighting its role in maintaining the rule of law within a democracy. The Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Benjamin Kalu, has assured Nigerians of speedy consideration of bills bordering on women and youth inclusion in the 10th Assembly. Honorable Kalu gave the assurance in an interview with newsmen on the sideline of the 40th anniversary celebration of News Engineering Limited in Abuja on Tuesday. He said the gender bills rejected by the 9th Assembly would be reconsidered, expressing hope that the executive would also give support since its key members were products of Parliament. The Deputy Speaker said the power of women should not be underestimated, as any opportunity given to them was multiplied. Some of the bills include bills seeking specific seats for women in the federal and state legislative houses, and a bill to provide 35% affirmative action for women in political party administration. Others are a bill to expand the scope of citizenship by registration, to extend citizenship to foreign spouses of Nigerian women, a bill on state indigenship rights for women, amongst others. In other news, the Canada High Commission in Nigeria says it is probing the fire outbreak that gutted parts of its building in Abuja Monday. The North American country has also joined the United States and the United Kingdom in issuing a warning against non-essential travel to Nigeria. It was reported that the High Commission witnessed a fire outbreak in which 2 persons lost their lives and 2 others were injured. The Canadian Foreign Minister Melanie Joly had earlier issued a test statement on X, mourning the victims of the explosion. However, Canada's High Commission in Nigeria said on social media that it had temporarily suspended operations until further notice. It blamed the decision on the unpredictable security situation throughout the country and the significant risk of terrorism, crime, intercommunal clashes, armed attacks, and kidnappings. In the meantime, the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, today received the Irish ambassador to Nigeria, Peter Ryan. Speaking on the themed visit, Mr. Wike said Nigeria indeed enjoyed the bilateral relationship, noting that the FCT will leverage on this to promote job creation and improve education and agriculture, amongst others. He emphasized the need to develop information and communication technology in the nation's capital, seeking the partnership of Irish investors to improve the sector. Highlighting the unemployment rate, the former Rivers State governor said the renewed hope agenda of President Bola Tinubu is making efforts to tackle it. On his part, the Irish diplomat said the meeting is to foster bilateral ties as well as collaborations that will strengthen the international partnership between both countries. 12 matters. The National Agency for Food and Drug Administration, NAFDAC, has banned the use of ethylsequin as an antioxidant in feed for food-producing animals. NAFDAC's Director General, Professor Mojisola Adeyeye, announced the ban in a statement on Tuesday, noting that the decision was made following a review of the scientific evidence, which suggests that ethylsequin may be responsible for a wide range of health-related problems in both animals and humans. Ethylsequin is widely used in animal feed in order to protect it against lipid peroxidation. While noting that it cannot be used in any food for human consumption, Mrs. Adeyeye said it could be passed from feed to farmed fish, poultry, and eggs, which makes humans exposed to the antioxidant. Lipid oxidation is a cascade phenomenon ensuring continuous delivery of free radicals, which initiate continuous peroxidation. On the foreign scene, people have been pulled from the rubble after explosions in the southern Gazan cities of Khan Yunis and Rafah. This is coming after Israel warned people for weeks to leave the north of the Gaza Strip and head to the south. Meanwhile, an Israeli air raid killed a Palestinian journalist, Mohammed Abu Asira, along with 42 family members near Gaza City, according to local media reports. The news agency in its report today said the Israeli bombing targeted his house overnight between Sunday and Monday. Temitokbe Ajijolo Luola has more on the conflict.
Dozens of deaths have been reported after blasts in the southern Gaza Strip. At least 23 people were killed in 2 separate Israeli airstrikes in Rafah and Khan Yunis, the Hamas-run health ministry said. Israel says its forces have surrounded Gaza City, home to a third of the enclave's 2.3 million people, and are poised to storm it soon in their campaign to annihilate the Hamas Islamists who attacked Israeli towns exactly a month ago. Israel gave civilians still trapped inside freshly encircled Gaza City a 4-hour window to leave on Tuesday, and residents escaping said they passed tanks in position to possibly begin storming it. A Palestinian journalist has been killed alongside 42 of his family members by an Israeli airstrike in Gaza City, his news agency, Wafa, reported. People across Israel are marking 1 month since Hamas's 7 October attacks that killed 1,400 and saw over 200 taken hostage. The Hamas-run health ministry in Gaza says more than 10,000 people have been killed in Israel's retaliatory attacks. The IDF said it took control of a Hamas stronghold in the northern Gaza Strip overnight. Around 600 foreign nationals are on the daily list to leave Gaza to Egypt via the Rafah border today. Israel says 70 more aid trucks have crossed the border into Gaza. The UN High Commissioner for Human Rights is on a 5-day tour of the Middle East, but whether that includes Israel is unclear. Volker Turk's office could only say he had sought access to Israel and Gaza. His trip began in Egypt and is also due to visit Jordan. 2 weeks ago, Israel said it would stop issuing visas to key UN officials after UN Chief Antonio Guterres said the Hamas attacks on 7 October did not occur in a vacuum. Guterres, who condemned the Hamas attacks in the same speech, later said his vacuum remarks were misrepresented. Speaking in Cairo about the war in Gaza, Turk said human rights play a central role in finding a way out of this vortex of pain. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Israel would consider tactical lethal forces in Gaza, fighting to let hostages leave or aid enter, but again rejected increasingly forceful calls for a ceasefire.
Israel will, for an indefinite period, will have the overall security responsibility, because we've seen what happens when we don't have it. When we don't have that security responsibility, what we have is the eruption of Hamas terror on a scale that we couldn't imagine.
Families of bereaved, abducted and missing Israelis are planning to protest outside the Knesset in Jerusalem this evening, showing anger at Israeli PM Benjamin Netanyahu and his government. In Jerusalem, crowds gathered with flags and lit candles to honor the 1,400 killed in Israel on 7 October. Temitope Ajijalaluola, Western Spring Television News.
Japan has said the G7 support for Ukraine in its war with Russia will not be affected by the intensifying Middle East conflict, as the group's foreign ministers prepared to hold virtual talks with Kyiv during a meeting in Tokyo. The group of 7 G7 wealthy nations, Britain, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, and the United States, as well as the European Union, are meeting in Tokyo from November 7 to 8 to discuss issues including Russia's war in Ukraine and the Israel-Gaza crisis. Japan's Foreign Minister Yoko Kamikawa, in a news conference, said the grouping's commitment to continue strict sanctions against Russia and strong support for Ukraine has not wavered at all, even as the situation in the Middle East intensifies. At a meeting with Ms. Kamikawa later in the day, U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken emphasized the group's enduring support for Ukraine as a key item on the agenda for the talks, but also said it was an important moment to come together on the Israel-Hamas war. The G7 is due to hold an online meeting with Ukraine's Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba on Wednesday. In Europe, Portuguese Prime Minister Antonio Costa says he has handed his resignation to the president after investigators searched his official residence in an inquiry into alleged corruption. He announced his decision in a televised address after meeting President Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa. Prosecutors said on Tuesday they were investigating concessions awarded for lithium mines and hydrogen production. According to reports, 2 people close to Mr. Costa have been detained. Infrastructure Minister João Galamba has meanwhile been indicted as part of the inquiry into energy deals. About 140 detectives searched the residence of the Prime Minister and several government ministries as part of the inquiry. The Prime Minister said he was caught by surprise by the corruption investigation, but said he would collaborate with it. In the United Kingdom, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has put law and order at the center of the King's speech as he set out his priorities ahead of the next general election. Tougher sentences for the most serious criminals and measures to force offenders to appear in the dock among those to feature in the government's plans for the year. Labour said the government had just repackaged the previously announced ideas, and some past pledges made by the Conservatives were notably absent. It was the first King's speech in more than 70 years following the death of the Queen last year and King Charles's first as monarch. Although he stood in for his mother in May 2022, it was also Mr. Sunak's first as Prime Minister and could be his last before the next general election, which is expected next year and must happen before January 2025.
Long term, steps will be taken to ensure young people have the knowledge and skills to succeed through the introduction of the Advanced British Standard that will bring technical and academic routes into a single qualification. Proposals will be implemented to reduce the number of young people studying poor quality university degrees and increase the number undertaking high quality apprenticeships. My ministers will take steps to make the economy more competitive, taking advantage of freedoms afforded by the United Kingdom's departure from the European Union. A bill will be brought forward to promote trade and investment with economies in the fastest growing region in the world. My ministers will continue to negotiate trade agreements with dynamic economies, delivering jobs and growth in the United Kingdom. My ministers will introduce new legal frameworks to support the safe commercial development of emerging industries, such as self-driving vehicles, introduce new competition rules for digital markets, and encourage innovation in technologies such as machine learning. Legislation will be brought forward to support the creative industries and protect public interest journalism. Proposals will be published to reform welfare and support more people into work. My government will promote the integrity of the Union and strengthen the social fabric of the United Kingdom.
Still ahead, Governor Caleb Mutfwang presented 295 billion naira 2024 appropriation bill to the Plateau State House of Assembly. We'll have more on these and other business stories after this break. Please stay with us.
Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela was an anti-apartheid activist who gave his all for the elimination of what has been described as the world's most vicious rule of the unjust and man's inhumanity against man. He was born July 18, 1918 in Mvezo, South Africa. Educated and trained as a successful legal practitioner, he took up the gauntlet of a human activist against segregation by the minority white supremacist in South Africa. At the climax of his trial for treason, orchestrated by the minority South African government, the great crusader for democratic equality was prepared to pay the supreme sacrifice to establish majority rule in his native land. He told white jurists that if achieving freedom for his people was worth his life, he was prepared to die. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in Robben Island, described as the most notorious prison in the world. It was from this same prison that he came out as a free man to assume office as South Africa's first black president in 1994. Western Spring Television identifies Nelson Mandela as a watershed character in history.
Welcome back now to business. Governor Caleb Mutfwang of Plateau State today presented the 2024 appropriation of over 295 billion naira to the State House of Assembly. He said 53.33% of the budget represents the recurrent expenditure, while 46.66% is for capital expenditure. Governor Mutfwang, while presenting the budget, tagged the budget of new beginnings, said the budget is aimed at laying a solid foundation for the peace and prosperity of the state. While appealing to the Speaker of the House and members to peruse and deliberate on the budget, he noted that he was looking forward to their mutual understanding and cooperation in the speedy passage of the budget. Responding, the Speaker of the House, Moses Sule, assured that the House would do its job diligently and ensures that the budget is passed in good time. The International Monetary Fund this morning upgraded its 2023 gross domestic product growth forecast for China to 5.4% from 5%, citing a strong post-COVID-19 recovery, but said the fund still expected the world's second biggest economy to slow next year. The IMF, in a press release, said that GDP growth could slow to 4.6% in 2024 because of continued weakness in China's property sector and subdued external demand. The upward revision followed a decision by China to approve a 1 trillion yuan sovereign bond issue and allow local governments to front-load part of their 2024 bond quotas in a move to support the economy. IMF's first Deputy Managing Director, Geeta Gopinath, in the statement said the projections reflect upward revisions of 0.4 percentage points in both 2023 and 2024 relative to October WEO projections due to a stronger than expected third quarter outturn and recent policy announcements. Oil prices hit a fresh 2.5 months low on Tuesday as mixed economic data from China offset the impact of Saudi Arabia and Russia extending output cuts. Brent crude futures were down 2.5% at $83.07 a barrel as of 2:28 p.m. GMT, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude was at $78.77 a barrel, also down 2.5%. Both hit their lowest levels since late August. The premium on front-month loaded Brent contracts over once loaded in 6 months was also at a 2.5-month low, indicating market participants are less concerned with current supply deficits. While China's crude oil imports in October showed robust growth both year-on-year and month-on-month, its total exports contracted at a quicker pace than expected. To some sports stories, Arsenal boss Mikel Arteta says it is his duty to defend the club after he criticized the officiating in the last Saturday's 1-0 defeat at Newcastle. The Arsenal boss, speaking ahead of his side's Champions League game against Sevilla, said it is his duty to give a clear and honest assessment. The Spaniard had over the weekend said the decision to allow Anthony Gordon's winner at St. James Park was embarrassing and a disgrace. Arsenal backed Arteta's comments in a club statement which was called dangerous by pundit Gary Neville. But speaking today, Arteta said it is his duty to defend his players and the club in the best possible way, noting that it is what he intends to do time after time. 3 areas around Gordon's goal were checked by Saturday's video assistant referee VAR on 3 counts to see if the ball went out of play in the build-up, if there was a foul, and if there was an offside, but all coming back in Newcastle's favour.
It is my duty to stand in front of you, to stand in front of the cameras and give a very clear and honest assessment of what happens on the game. And this is what I did, reflect very openly how I felt that the team played and how the game was conditioned by these results with the decisions that were made. And it's the duty. My duty is to be defending my players, supporting my club, defending my people in the best possible way. And this is what I'm going to do time after time. And I do it not the way I feel, with the evidence and being as clear as possible. And I always do it. When we play, really need to say that. When we have lost, to take my responsibility, the first one me, to do it. And it's the way that I am, and I have to defend my club.
Having said that, I mean, I've never seen you react like that. I don't think many people have. Such was your emotion after the game. But was your emotion and your anger simply to do with that goal, or was it maybe a build-up of other decisions that you may feel have gone against you? And if so, will you be taking this up with the PGMOL?
Yeah, things they don't happen overnight, you know, and when I was that clear and when I had all the evidence to stand for the words that I use in the media, it's because I feel strongly about them. But one thing I say externally, then as well internally to my players, is how can we play better, how can we be more dominant, how we can do the game the way we want, so giving no chance to the opponents. But one thing is my duty towards you guys, and then my duty as a coach to do what we have to do. And this is exactly what I've done. Nothing special, nothing different, and I would do it. And the club will do it again and again till this is right. And till this is right as well in what we have to do on the pitch to play better and win more football games. That's it.
Moving away from football, two-time Olympic champion Caster Semenya has said she is not going to be ashamed of being different and will fight for what is right, and amid her ongoing dispute with athletics authorities. Semenya, aged 32, was born with differences of sexual development, which means she has an elevated level of testosterone, a hormone that increases muscle mass and strength. The South African cannot compete in female track events without taking testosterone-reducing drugs. Semenya, speaking to the BBC, said recently she was turning her attention to win battles against the authorities rather than collecting medals, with competing at the Paris 2024 Olympics no longer a goal. She said it was about fighting for the upcoming generation because there are a lot of kids affected by the same ruling. And that's all we have for you at this hour. But before we go, here is a recap of our major stories. The leadership of the Nigeria Labour Congress NLC and the Trade Union Congress TUC have declared a total nationwide strike effective next week, Tuesday, November 14, 2023. The Nigerian Medical Association NMA has confirmed the escape of an abducted resident doctor, Dr. Orokara Orok, attached to the University of Nigeria Teaching Hospital in Enugu State. The Inspector General of Police Olukayode Egbetokun has announced the restriction of vehicular movement as well as movement via waterways in Imo, Kogi and Bayelsa states starting from Friday. And on the foreign scene, people have been pulled from the rubble after explosions in the southern Gazan cities of Khan Yunis and Rafah. Please do follow us on our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram and X at Western Spring Television. You can also watch us live on our YouTube channel at Western Spring Television. I am EVELYN OHIOLEI, and from the entire crew right here in the studios, have yourself a good night rest.
Our music is one of our greatest exports, but our wildlife could be another great industry if we protect it for future generations. Right now, it's threatened by illegal wildlife trade. So please, report wildlife crime and say no to illegal bushmeat. Because poaching steals from us all.
According to the words of Michael Forbes, one who never asks questions either knows everything or nothing. Watch me as I ask the questions you think no one wants to answer. Even questions it appears no one has got the guts to ask. My name is Femi Adefila, and I've got the gut. Let's ask the pertinent questions and watch as we get answers.
There's nothing better than the roar of your fans. But in Nigeria, there's a roar that may not be heard again. With fewer than 50 lions left in the wild, they could be extinct in the next few years. From loss of habitat and prey, and snares set for illegal bushmeat. Please say no to illegal bushmeat, and let's keep the roar alive for Nigeria. Poaching steals from us all.
Some people say animals don't laugh.